Thank you. We will now call the February 10th Public Employees Meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Point of order is March 10th, and I'm present.
Oh my God, you are right. We will now call the March 10th. How did I get a month behind? All right. We will now call the March 10th Public Employees Meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call roll?
Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderwoman Davis.
Present.
Alderman Cone.
Present.
Alderman Coder.
Here.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Stevens. Chairman Bosley.
Present.
5 present, you have quorum.
All right, thank you. This is a continuation. Do we have minutes that we need to approve?
Yes, sir.
All right. What date was that?
For
Is it 28th?
March 3rd.
Third. Okay. Got that completely wrong. All right. I move that we approve the minutes of March 3rd, 2022.
Second.
It has been moved. Okay.
So
there you
moved.
go.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded by the Alderwoman at the first. Sorry, who made the motion? I made the motion.
You made the motion.
I made the
and
motion, right. I made the
seconded.
motion, seconded by Alderwoman from the first.
Roll call.
All right, roll call. Lot going on over here.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Coder.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Stevens. Chairman Bosley.
Aye.
5 aye votes.
All right, thank you. So this is a continuation from the last meeting that we had for resolution 189, Alderman Vaccaro. I'll let you go ahead and start it off, Alderman Vaccaro, after we let the new interim director, John Moten, and his team introduce themselves. Mr. Moten, could you please introduce yourself and your team?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the invitation. Mr. Chairman, I am John Moten, Interim Director of Personnel. Sitting next to me is Brian Beckelman, who is the Deputy Director of Personnel. Next to him is Mr. John Unnerstall, who heads up our classification and compensation section of the Department of Personnel. Also have Mr. Aaron Swearingen, who is over our recruitment, and Ms. Melody Hayes, who will assist us with the PowerPoint.
All right, thank you very much. How long is your PowerPoint?
It's one slide primarily, and we have a couple of backup, but primarily the main slide to answer your questions would be the first one, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
We tried to reduce it down to the minimum.
We certainly appreciate it. And for those who are not aware, we were a little bit short on time today. There is a different meeting coming up soon, so some of our committee members will have to leave, and we did start the meeting a little bit late today. So Alderman Vaccaro, you recognize on resolution 189.
Yes,
if you'd like the clerk to read it, just so we can
if the clerk would read it, that would be yes.
Resolution 189, calling upon the mayor to begin negotiations with the city's union workers and their representative. Whereas the collective bargaining agreement between the city and its union worker is set to expire in June of 2023. And whereas negotiations with city workers and their union representatives, which were to start the beginning of this year, have yet to begin. And whereas union representatives were promised a meeting by the city's former personnel director to discuss the findings of the city's recent compensation study prior to beginning negotiations. And whereas union representatives have made repeated attempts to communicate with the mayor's administration and personnel department about said meeting, the commencement of negotiations, and to simply inquire who is in the administration and personnel department should be meeting with them, but received no response from the administration or personnel department. Now therefore, let it be resolved that the Board of Aldermen hereby calls upon Mayor Tashara Jones to promptly begin fair negotiation with city workers and their union representative. Introduced this 25th day of February 2022 by the Honorable Joseph Courtrow, 23rd Alderman.
So first off, I guess it accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, and that was to get the personnel director and Alderwoman Tyus explained it should have been directed to them, but it has accomplished what I wanted it to. I would, to me, it doesn't matter if we just drop the resolution at this point, but I would like to have Jeff Hans, who represents the carpenters and actually several of the different workers in the city, and Dave Clark, who's a representative of the firefighters. I'd like to at least give them a few minutes to speak. Then the rest, I'm just going to listen. I hope that this, if nothing else now, at least opens up that communication, because, you know, to the interim director, we have to have this stuff in order for us to get the budget out with the right numbers. And you can tell me if we're wrong or something, but you know, it appears that nobody in your office is replying to any of these unions to start the negotiations so that we can get this done. So I'm going to basically just be more of a listener now. And I would appreciate, though, Chairman Bosley, if you would let the two speakers that I would like to have speak on this, and maybe there's been a change. Maybe they can enlighten us that maybe there's talks have started now. I feel the resolution has accomplished what I wanted it to. And that was solely to get this together, and I appreciate your help of helping get it all together. So I'm going to mute myself, and if you could let them talk, I'm just going to hang out and listen.
Okay, that'll work. Thank you. So we got Jeff Hines. And who was the other speaker? I'm sorry, Alderman Vaccaro.
Oh, Dave Clark, he represents the firefighters.
Actually, Dan Clark.
Oh,
Dan Clark.
No,
Dan Clark, I don't know, I can't read.
That's all right.
It says Daniel. That's okay. Rough morning.
All right, so this is how we'll do this, just so we can keep some structure. If Mr. Hines and Mr. Clark, I know you all have probably a lot to say, and I know we got like to have as much time as we could. Like I said, we can always have more meetings, but try to make the most time of what we have. I know there has been times, I think specifically that Alderman Vaccaro was speaking about, that you tried to reach out to our departments here, and it seems like the communication has been dropped somewhere. I'm big on communications, trying to figure out how it is we communicated and where it is the communication piece was lost, so we can continue on the conversations without those type of hiccups and make sure that individuals are at least receiving and getting information that's being sent out. So if we can, kind of first start off on our try to figure out where it is the communication is being dropped off. If you have reached out to our department, when and what time, what responses you got. Therefore, when we talk to Director Moten, you can figure out, where those emails maybe have gotten lost at, or if they haven't been, and we're just working on, responding. The big thing, once again, is trying to achieve communication between the unions. I think that's what, once again, Alderman Vaccaro was speaking about, us just trying to make sure there's communication. We're getting that communication started. So if that's what this is about, we got to start with communicating. So with that being said, Mr. Hines, you can go first and introduce yourself. Give us 2 minutes of where it is we're trying to get with this conversation. Number one, and number two, well, not number one, but what it is you need out of the city, and where, when have you reached out to them, and when have you, and how long have you been waiting on the response?
Well, thank you and good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Hance. I work for the Mid-America Carpenters Regional Council. represent a little over 1,000 city employees in various departments throughout the city. We have not had an opportunity to meet Mr. Moulton yet. I do know some of the staff that's in the room there, as he is a new appointment, a new appointee as the interim director. So I have not personally reached out to him yet, trying to give him a little chance to get his bearings. During the health committee meetings that we've had that Mr. Clark is a member of, they had mentioned that we would be entering pay negotiations within the next few weeks. So I remain hopeful that that was an accurate statement by a staff member of the mayor's office. And I was surprised by the resolution. Also concerned with the language that was granted to the mayor's office, not the director of personnel, but very thankful and supportive of the aldermen all wanting and alderwomen wanting to support city employees during this time of their need for a pay increase. They have been stepping up during the pandemic. It's gone on, seems like forever. And they've showed up every day doing diligent work for city services and continuing to provide those. Some in very dangerous positions like my correctional officers, which we've tried to get a pay increase or hazard pay for them since the numerous riots occurred. So I'm hopeful that those negotiations will start up soon. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Moulton, and I hope we'll get to see each other real soon in person or via Zoom, however your preference is. That's really all I have. I'm interested to see how this proceeds from this, because I was a surprise for me that the resolution was granted, but I do appreciate the alderman support. So thank you.
Thank you. So just for clarification, you did reach out to the previous director, you said on multiple times, multiple occasions, trying to have a
Absolutely. And
conversation.
he kept
Email.
promising. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He kept promising that we'd meet later in the year. And then, of course, I learned of his retirement in the newspaper, not from him. So I was disappointed, surprised, and not really surprised. Like I said, the can kept being kicked down the road. He knew that we were trying to negotiate an increase. I knew that the audit had been done. It clearly stated that city employees were underpaid. And, you know, these insurance meetings have been disheartening that there's going to be an increase exponentially to city employees, which I'm sure Mr. Clark's going to probably elaborate on. That's going to put city employees in the hole even farther than they are presently right now if we don't give them additional increase of the 3% they're guaranteed. So via our memo that expires in 2023.
Okay, thank you. If any of our committee members have any questions, I'd ask right now if you write them down. I know if this was, you know, something where we weren't pressed for time, I just go around and circle around, but that could take maybe 10 or 15 minutes per person. They may have questions for each individual, so we let I think each one of them go, and then, you know, ask questions afterwards. Probably would save everybody a little bit of time being able to hear everything.
Everybody should have my phone number. If you have additional questions after this, due to the time restraints, I'll be glad to share additional information.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Clark.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
All right, could you introduce yourself and I guess what it is you are trying to work to get here out of the Civil Service Commission?
Sir. So my name is Dan Clark. I am the Secretary Treasurer for the firefighters, St. Louis firefighters. We represent firefighters, EMS, and dispatchers here in St. Louis. I also sit as one of the two labor votes on the healthcare committee for St. Louis, and I'm here to speak about not just negotiations, but pretty much all communication with just our day-to-day issues that we run into that we need the personnel department for. I did speak to the Public Safety Committee meeting last week, primarily over promotions being held up. In that, and we have a lack of time. I would go over all that, but I know we're short on time. when I did speak last week, I believe we had like one captain's position open and one battalion's chief. We're now up to 3 captain's positions and 1 battalion chief. And that's just going to keep growing. We have an active list. It's with that is our main thing right now. What we're seeing, we just had a line of duty death. Our brother Ben Polson died about a little over a month ago. And it's a horrible time to short staff our supervision right now. These are things that normally we reach out to the director's office, try to get some feedback. Now, we did email the director yesterday. We got an email back saying that it was received, that the email was received, but really nothing stating this is what we think, or we're going to look forward into it. It was just a receipt that we got the email. As far as negotiations go, we have reached out with Director Frank. We were told that they were waiting for that compensation study. And then he did have his retirement. We then started to reach out to the interim director Donaldson at the time, because we had some grievances. We have a promotional, there's a contract for new promotional testing that's out there that was signed last fall. We were curious the status of that. Just curious the status of new employees. There's a hang sheet for new firefighters that's out there right now that's kind of stale. I guess we're having trouble getting applicants. Just lots of irons in the fire right now. There's lots of things going on. The fire department is a 24-hour a day, 365 a year. We're nonstop working, which means we have nonstop questions and things that need to be done. So yeah, it's since Director Frank has left, it's been really hard to get any type of information or get anything back from the personnel office. And negotiations is a huge one. We all know that budget time's getting ready to come up, and we got to get this stuff done. As Jeff spoke on healthcare, we're looking at about a 3.9% increase for all employees. On the board, we did ask for a rate pass from the city, which is Alderwoman Tyus is actually on here. She spoke on that when she was on the committee and got that done for us. The city did balk at it. So we are going to have a 3.9% increase for healthcare for all employees. And being a labor vote on there, I represent all of labor, not just the firefighters. And I've spoken that, hey, we haven't had raises in a while. There's inflation is crazy. I mean, look at the price of gas right now, and now we're going to increase healthcare. So it's scary times for employees. We really need to look at this. Everybody's having trouble hiring employees. There's just a lot going on, and I think all labor needs a direct line and open communication with the personnel department. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're muted, Mr. Chair.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I appreciate you, Mr. Clark. And I was just saying, once again, for those who do have questions, just try to write them down or remember them, and we'll circle right back around. Once again, time is limited. For those folks who do want to leave, we'll ask them to ask their questions first. So they can go to the next committee and be able to do the rest of their duties here. Mr. Moten,
Sure.
I'd like you and your team to go next. You got any responses or well, first, do you have any responses to anything that you've heard thus far?
Yes, sir. I've only received one communication regarding negotiations, and that was from the St. Louis Police Leadership Organization, to which I responded. And we are putting our calendar together, and I promised them that we would get back to them before the end of this month. I think within 3 weeks of the communication. With regard to Mr. Clark's comment, I did receive the letter regarding the promotions in the Public Safety Department. I did receive that. We are researching that answer. I have not been in communication with Director Isom yet, so I don't have an answer with regard to what's going on his end.
Understood. All right, so I guess if we can, as a committee, we can go ahead and start with questions. Interim Director, do you have anything else you want to add or start with? I know you haven't had a chance to address the committee just yet, And there are, a lot of things that have been going on that predates you being here. We've had a lot of trouble with hiring people within the city. Definitely big problems with our process in which people get, turned down for interviews. Sometimes, no response at all, other than just a letter that you get 2 days later saying that you're unqualified. So not the interim director, but the previous director made some commitments with the mayor's office, myself, and saying that they would start contacting individuals that may have qualified for certain positions, but had gotten disqualified. Well, not may have qualified, but got disqualified, but they would reach back out to so they could further investigate why, because there were some reasons that people were being disqualified that they were not being alerted to. For instance, if you had an incomplete application, those folks weren't being contacted to say that your application was incomplete. You just got sent back that you were disqualified, and you weren't getting an interview. So we have a lot of employee shortages. I believe it's over 1,000 employees right now from the last email that I got from the previous director. So we're once again trying to just figure out particularly where those communications are being dropped. That we got a lot of departments pointing the finger at each other or pointing the finger at this department. And of course, you've only been in there for a little bit of time. So it's, never at all, I don't think at all the intent is to blame you for any of the different problems or issues that exist. We're just trying to get some of the solutions for them. So with those things being said, if you don't have anything else to add, I'll go to the committee for questions.
Well, I do have a slide I'd like to share in response to your question, Mr. Bosley, in your email. I would ask Ms. Hayes to put that on the screen, to share that with the screen. Specifically, you asked Alderman Bosley if I would provide you with a list, the first slide, Melody. Alderman Bosley, your questions were the positions that were applied for, the departments, and the result of the applications. For the period cited on the screen, for example, the first line would be March of 2021 to February, the end of February 2022. We received 697 requisitions. Those requisitions could represent more than one job. And as a result of those requisitions, we received 15,146 applications, of which our department determined that 3,640 were eligible for the positions that they applied for, and 872 of those persons were hired. It is my understanding that when a person files an application for employment, that the application is acknowledged as received, sent back to the person, and if they apply online, there is a confirming email that is sent back to them. I will stop right there and point to the PowerPoint slide and see if there are any questions regarding the slide, sir.
Thank you. It's pretty interesting. I appreciate the information also. It looks like I saw Alderwoman Tice's hand up some time ago. You still have a question, Alderwoman Tice?
Yes, I don't know if it's appropriate to this conversation. I was just trying to find out, Alderman Vaccaro said that they had done some of the things, but I saw here in the resolution that they were supposed to have a meeting with the personnel director to discuss the findings of the city's recent compensation study. And I was wondering if that happened.
I am not aware of any such meeting having been held or any such meeting having been scheduled. I am not aware of that.
Okay, could I ask Mr. Clark, are you, Mr. Clark, if that happened, if you know?
I'm trying to unmute. No, that has at least hasn't happened with our organization.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Moten, did anybody give you the compensation study? Actually, when I used to be the chair of the public employees, I had the personnel director do such a study. And then I had to fight with him tooth and nail. I finally did get the study a few months ago, and I was wondering if anybody shared that study with you.
Yes, the study has been shared with me, but I have not read it in its entirety. But yes, I did receive it.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman Ingracia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could someone let me know, is the compensation study done? I have been asking for at least the past 2 years the status of that. And the last time I checked, I was told it was still not complete.
Oh, it's complete. It's
Okay.
nice and thick too. Everybody is underpaid just about.
Okay, could someone send me a copy of that, please?
I haven't seen a digital copy. The one I have was actually mailed to me by the previous director right after he left. It came to my box.
Okay, I'm assuming there's a digital copy. Can anyone in personnel answer that?
Is there a digital copy? Yes, we do have a digital copy, and we can provide that to you, Alderwoman Ingracia.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And could you provide that to the whole committee, please?
Yes, sir. If Ms. Rogers will give us the names of the relevant persons who should receive it, we will send out an electronic copy to each of them.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may ask, is that something that can go to the trades?
Say it again.
Is that something that could go to the unions as well? Could we get a copy of this?
If the committee doesn't see an issue with that, I don't.
Definitely, they should have it.
Okay, well, yes, we can send it to you.
I think we should defer to the Director of Personnel on that.
I think that our position would be, sir, that the compensation study is a work product that we would prefer not to share until after we get into negotiations. I think that's where we are right now, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So what we'll do is we'll come back and visit that, and we'll right now wait for the interim director to get a full look at it. So just to everybody know my intent, I know that we are right now in a different kind of process with the city. Everybody's kind of switching seats. We got a lot going on. So I want to give everybody a good chance to get in and do the best that they can, given the powers that they have and the different ideas that they have and how to improve city services. To be able to do those things. So, not wanting to share that information, but this is the director here, and I think that, and we could put it up to a vote of the committee because Alderwoman Davis feels like that should be able to have that information.
Chairman Bosley, do you mind if I say something else?
Alderman Cone had his hand up. Give me 1 second. Alderman Cone.
Can't hear you.
I don't know how that got muted. Yeah, I feel like the questions are kind of coming from all over the place at the moment. It appears as though there's more slides in this presentation. Some of us only have about 15 more minutes before we have to jump over to the Personnel and Administration Committee. I personally would like to see the rest of the presentation from the Personnel Director and his team, and then be able to ask any appropriate questions as it pertains to that, if that's at all possible.
Yes, sir. We will continue on if the chair grants their permission to me, sir. Yes, sir.
You're muted.
There we go. Am I back? Sorry about that. I said, Alderwoman Ingracia, did you have something you want to add?
Sure, just very quickly, I would be under the assumption that this study is public record and would request an opinion from the city councilor's office. I can't imagine that if somebody filed a sunshine request for this document that we would be able to argue that it shouldn't be released. So if the chairman would be willing to submit that request to the city councilor's office, I would appreciate it. I'm also happy to do it myself if it's makes more sense to you.
Oh, that's fine. And Madam Clerk, could you make a note of that?
Thank you so much, Chairman.
No problem. Thank you. All right. Can we finish with the slides? Alderman Vaccaro, it's your first time you got your hand up. I know we got folks leaving. So we won't leave necessarily because, you know, other people are leaving, but I do want everybody to have a chance to get their questions asked who does have to leave the committee. Alderman Cone is right. We only have a few minutes left. You got something quick you want to add, Alderman Vaccaro, or?
Just about the resolution, very, very, very fast. So what I'd like to do is hold the resolution, because if a week or two from now, we find that, you know, things are not moving like we're hoping they do, I'd like to bring the resolution back with amendments.
Okay.
That was my whole thing. So, you know, so I'd like to just hold it in committee and hopefully it all works. If not, I certainly then would want to bring it back with some amendments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Director, you can finish the presentation.
Yes, sir. I think I covered the first slide. Ms. Hayes, would you go to the second slide, please? These are the recruitment efforts we've been working on. We have scheduled to work on the recruitment to get more people into the system. I also have one other idea, and that is to talk to some of the religious organizations to see if they can provide us with some potential applicants. So that is slide there, show the upcoming events. And if no one has a question, we'll move on to this next slide.
Yes, sir. If you can just finish your whole presentation.
Yes, sir.
And just,
Ms. Hayes, we'll go to the next. This is what we do to advertise vacant positions. We use Indeed.com via the city's online job application system. We selectively post on Monster.com. We selectively purchase ads in the St. Louis American. We use Handshakes for entry-level part-time seasonal positions. And Handshakes is a platform that is used by college students. And we attend all free local hiring events and those to which the airport pays for attendance. And we use social media platforms such as Facebook and Twitter to advertise positions, sir.
nice.
Next slide, Ms. Hayes. The greatest factors contributing to the vacancies, compensation and pay, which we've talked about, but we are not competitive with some other organizations. I've been informed that, for example, for refuse workers, that there's a discrepancy. We pay less than $1,000 a month to our refuse workers when compared to private companies who do that. Some people balk at the residency requirement for city workers. We have a problem of retaining people, and we have retirements. The persons who have found that they are vested and choose to retire, particularly COVID has caused that. And we have some other factors that we call existential factors, which contribute to the retirements also. Next slide, Ms. Hayes. This is the highlights the required retirements we experienced for the periods here for January to December of 2019. We have 151 civil service retirements, 51 non-civil service retirements, former vested members who have retired 129 for a total of 331 retirements. And the totals across for the 4-year period that is cited there would be 1,004 total retirements, which would create some vacancies in addition to people either leaving city service or moving on to other jobs. That concludes my presentation, Mr. Chairman, unless there are some questions.
Thank you. We got any questions from committee members? Looks like Alderwoman Ingracia and Cone, yes, hands are still up.
I have questions.
Okay, well, Alderman Cone, go ahead. Alderman Ingracia, did you have questions? Again?
On the committee.
All right, go ahead, Alderman Cone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just curious, two main points for discussion before I have to depart. One, I want to be clear in my understanding. Are there now communications as it pertains to the resolution that was introduced? I know the alderman's putting it on hold, but this is obviously a first step, and it's so good to see all of you here. Thank you for coming before the committee. It's nice to see you all. Is this the kind of beginning stages of the negotiations? Are we going to be making contact with the various union representatives to ensure that we're continuing negotiations with them before the pay bill and budgets are before us this year? That's my first question.
It is our intention to reach out once we get our calendar together within the next couple of weeks to reach out to the various bargaining groups. Yes, sir, that is our intention.
Okay. I'm not going to belabor that too much, just due to time and allowing my colleagues the opportunity to ask some questions as well here. The other, pertaining to your presentation, thank you for sharing that information. I'm curious though, if I recall correctly, there's roughly about, was it 300 retirements, and then we had about 600 requisitions that are open any given year?
Yes, sir. And in one year there were 600 requisitions. That is correct, sir.
So I think it was somewhere like 600 plus, and then last year we had around 400, and then the year before it was like 700 or something like that.
Yes, sir. 390, you're correct. And the last number was 721. That is correct, sir.
So what's the average time to fill on those requisitions? Do we know?
What is the average time to fill?
Director, if I may, and these are numbers we track in the Department of Personnel's annual report. For most of the recent years, we have eligible lists already in place for hiring for, I would say, around 90% or more of the jobs we receive requisitions for. So we try our best for a 2-day turnaround time from receiving the requisition to sending candidates off the list. Sometimes we don't hit our 2-day goal, but we work as diligently as possible. We have been short-staffed like other city departments. And for other positions for which we do not already have a list, before the pandemic, in most cases, it would take around 60 days. When you figure about 3 to 4 weeks to do a recruitment, screen applications, put together an interview board, and then do interviews and put candidates on a list. Some positions take longer than others, simply because we are struggling, like most employers, for qualified candidates to come to work for us. That was an issue that did get worse before the pandemic. Because of social distancing, we have been able to move a little bit faster with getting people on the list because we are not doing in-person interviews. We are reaching out to candidates in response to their applications. We are evaluating their education, training, and experience credentials as they describe it on their applications. So it does move the process forward. But I would also add to that, respectfully for your consideration, we were under a hiring freeze the last administration. So even though the exam staff were here every day to screen applications and reach out by telephone and email to applicants in response to their applications, we would put people on lists, but they wouldn't get referred as quickly off the list to our departments as we would have liked, because we were under a hiring freeze except for critical positions like firefighter, police, correction officer. I hope that helps. I don't want to give you too much information, but
no, it points me in the right direction at least. And then as it pertains to, do we have any analysis on like cost per hire, in terms of, our recruitment efforts and, the money we put out in terms of, either the job fairs, staffing, advertisements, et cetera, and how much that costs, I'm sorry.
Director, may I?
Yes.
Thank you,
please.
Director. Alderman, I can tell you that we run on a pretty tight budget for advertising and recruitment. It's been about $50,000 a year for basically at least 2015, since I managed the section previously. I know that number. And we have to be very frugal with our efforts. What I've noticed in my past experience is a lot of job fairs charge for a table. And according to my past experience, it's been very difficult to justify paying between $500 or $1,000 a table for a major event when we know our pay cannot compete with the other employers there. And we also have our residency requirement. So that's mainly why we focus on free events and do as much outreach with local partnerships such as the Urban League, and gladly attend any free job affair yourself or members of the board would put together, or that we could put together at recreation centers with management and the departments who are our customers that we serve. But most of our advertising efforts are for print and online ads with groups like the St. Louis American and trade journals. If we want civil engineers or a GIS specialist, we want to use those trade publications or their online websites. So it's a targeted, frugal effort.
Yeah, are we tracking source of hire as well? So if someone is found through a job fair or through an advertisement and a trade publication, do we know how many of our hires are coming from those sources?
Alderman, we have a voluntary survey that applicants can complete when they submit an application, paper or online. They can volunteer how they heard about the job, but we have no metrics that we've compiled to track that. So the answer would be no, sir.
Okay. And then I'm just curious, you did just mention you all are short staffed like the rest of the city as well. What's the bench load for a recruiter right now in terms of the number of requisitions that they're handling?
Well, I would say currently have about 130 positions open for examination. Let me couch that with this. We do have people on list eligible for hire for a lot of these jobs, but because we burn through lists so quickly because it's a competitive job market, we don't close down accepting applications because we want to constantly add candidates to the list. The other thing I would say to answer your question, Alderman, we've lost several members of this department to higher paying positions in the private sector recently. Last month, we lost a HR specialist one in the exam section who left. When she left, the manager here, Erin, had to divide up her examination load of 40 exams between himself and the rest of the staff there. So at any given time, I would say most of the specialists are handling what, over 40 positions, Erin?
Two of my newest staff members are currently handling 30 vacancies or positions themselves. Myself and my assistant manager, we are handling upwards of 40 apiece.
Okay.
And I would also like to say that we were subject to the hiring freeze as well. We weren't filling our positions. We felt it would have been hypocritical to do so. So, you know, we're trying to fill positions as we can, but things have been flux in the department and we're playing catch up.
Okay. I apologize, but I do have another committee hearing that I need to jump over to. But, you know, again, want to express my gratitude for you all being here this morning and, you know, sharing the information that you have so far. Thank you.
Thank you. We're grateful for your questions and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My first question is to Interim Director Moten. I wanted to know if I am understanding it right, that the contracts that we are under for labor with our employees, those are contracts that have very specific information in it that we must follow. So we don't necessarily have the luxury of determining new timelines process and procedures, we do have a contract, am I right?
We do have a bargaining agreement, a contract, and it is set to expire in, I believe, in June. June of this year. And I mentioned the timeline I mentioned in terms of reaching out to others. That was an outside high number, and it was on purpose so that we would be within bounds when we actually reached out to the others.
Okay, that helps me a lot. Then my second question is it correct that even if we don't come to conclusions in the bargaining process, we can have a memorandum of understanding to move forward in the budget analysis if both sides agree upon continuing the negotiations? Am I right?
That is my understanding. Is that correct, gentlemen?
I'm a little unclear of the question.
The question was, if we do not reach a final agreement, can we agree to a memorandum of understanding on the substantive portion of the labor bargaining agreement?
Well, I think that the director's authority is to meet and confer. It doesn't have to necessarily come to an agreement. So if an agreement's not reached, the director can still put a pay bill forth to the commission and then to the alderman.
Okay.
So the answer to your question, Madam, is the answer is yes. Alderwoman is yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, especially new people to the process as alderpersons and the public who a lot of new people are being engaged, understand the process, because we don't educate people properly so that we can move forward. And that's why I'm asking these questions. Also, I wanted to ask as well for our recruitment process. Are you not allowed to have a continuing recruitment relationship? And you mentioned the one you have with the Urban League, but could it not also be with all the counselors for all your high schools and technical colleges and so many other avenues that are continually graduating certified people? Do you have the ability to do that?
I'm not aware of any such restrictions, so yes, we are able to do that.
Okay. I guess I just want to make a comment that for us to get into the weeds on this is critical at this point. I do know that we're in the process of doing, I think, a national search is being done, some other things, but we also need to make sure that people understand the process, the agreements are in place, and we need to move forward. We don't have to create anything new. And we need to live up to what we have agreed to do in contract and do it with haste. So I appreciate your presentations that were made today. I appreciate the comments from the union representatives. And Mr. Chair, I would like to ask that we also, committee members, get a copy of the presentation that was made by the interim personnel director. And that is it.
Yes, we can make those slides available to you, Madam Alderwoman.
All right, thank you.
If it's okay with you, Madam Alderwoman, what we will do is provide those to Chairman Bosley, and then he can distribute them as he sees fit.
Absolutely, for me, I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I'll make sure every committee member gets a, what I'd like you to do, if you can send it to me and the clerk.
Yes, sir.
And we'll make sure everybody gets a copy.
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate that. Are there any more questions from committee members while we have the interim director and his team here, Mr. Jeff Hines, I'm sorry, and Dan Clark here from firefighters unions? No. All right.
Mr. Chair, may I make a comment, please?
Absolutely, please.
First, I'm new on the job, so I'm in a learning curve, been here less than a month. But one mantra that we've adopted here is that we will be a customer service organization. So it's our job to see the rest of the city as our customers, and I've impressed that on our staff as well as in our staff meetings. We are starting to have regular staff meetings now, which we have not had for some time. And one of the things we talk about in our staff meetings is that we will be a customer service organization. So I just wanted to add that, Mr. Chair, and thank you for allowing me to do so, sir.
Thank you. Could you also, so I've got, I believe I got it from the last director. I have to find that information that was sent, but could you also send a list of the different jobs that are open here within the city of St. Louis? But I believe it's like 1,000. They send me a lot. But if you can send that information also to the committee members, or send that also to the clerk so we can get it to the members of the committee. We also have, of course, a lot of constituents that we represent. So, it's knowing the different scopes of jobs that are available out there as we run into people in our communities. We may be able to pull that list up and also, help out with our employment efforts.
Yes, sir. We will get that to you and the clerk. Yes, sir.
Appreciate that. Is there a time when you suspect you'll have had a full kind of look at that compensation study?
It will take me a couple of weeks. It's my understanding that it's about 400 pages, so I won't pretend that I'll read it in one night.
It is.
So I would say that within a couple of weeks I should have it read, depending on what how meaty it is and what I have to go through. To be honest, I have not read it in its entirety, so I don't know that yet. But I will read it as promptly as I can, as fast as I can.
That'll work. Thank you, because I do want the committee to at some point in time take that up, have some conversations about that. Our employees are definitely, as we all know, a lot of folks who aren't being compensated properly. Like the city got a lot of money, at the same time either. But definitely some things that we can do to be making sure we retain our employees, just like you have there on the slides. We got a lot of folks that get interested and then leave once they're here for a few weeks. Or a few months once they find a better position. And we always want people to elevate, but we want people to elevate towards our city, not away from it. So, that's definitely something I think this committee will be doing the best we can to kind of help in those efforts. You seem to be an individual, which I appreciate all of you are, that's willing to really help work, try to figure these things out. And not to say the last director was not, but we all are kind of jumping in these positions and figuring out the best way to work with each other. And the intent, just want you to know, this committee is never to attack or try to undermine the powers that you all hold. We all hold individual powers for a reason. It's for balance. So, with those things being said, we are trying to work towards also being the voice for our constituents and the constituent services also. So, we'll come back. Ms. Evans would like to have a copy as well. Okay, I'll make sure can you make a note of Ms. Evans wants a copy also, Madam Clerk? Like I said, we'll have another meeting very, very soon. Me and you'll have some conversations offline and kind of structure how we like those different meetings to go. I know that we all have had a lot of troubles with the personnel department and the different departments as far as communication goes in the past. There's been a lot of, like right now, and I do want to throw this out there, in the building division, there are some employment issues there. Mr. Oswald has been asking for individuals. He actually sent some folks up and they were denied. They were denied employment, and he asked them to send some information out so they can find out why. I don't believe that information has been presented, so I definitely want to talk to you about that also. We got a lot of departments that are begging for employees, and when we get folks that want to come in and we are denying them, I think it's very important for at least us to start diving into why folks are being denied when they seem to be qualified. And I've talked to multiple folks that are very qualified to work, seen the qualifications and looked at our minimum qualifications, and under those circumstances, are definitely qualified. I'm not in personnel department, but I'm sure other aldermen have also sent people who, they would think are qualified based on what the information we provided on our website is, and they still have to no avail have not been hired. So, that was one of the things I asked you for also, was to see if we can get the information on the employees that have applied for the city. And, and you provided that information. I, once again, would like to dive into why those people also were rejected, so we can figure out, maybe if there's a flaw in this, things we need to change there. The other director also, and hoping you're following up on that, he was interested in looking at the way we do drug tests differently and allowed individuals to be hired and have 30 days or so to clean themselves up. Of course, not working heavy machinery, things like that. But if my memory serves me correctly, that was a conversation. Bill, are you familiar? You remember that conversation?
I'm not privy to that. I'm not aware of that conversation, sir.
Sorry,
I was asking Bill. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, it's Brian, Chairman.
Brian, I'm so sorry, Brian.
No, that's okay.
Apologies. I'm definitely
No,
not trying to be disrespectful.
No, not at all, sir. I understand. I am not aware of what you mentioned. I do know that recently our policy on drug and alcohol testing changed. So we went from a urinalysis test to a oral swab test. And we also have a 2 strikes with marijuana, provided that it is not a CDL position where we're under stricter guidelines from the feds with the Department of Transportation. But as long as it's your first positive test for marijuana, the appointing authority can treat it like a first positive on the job test for alcohol and refer the employee to mandatory EAP counseling and give them a second chance.
Okay. Great. Thank you. So I remember we were definitely in talks about, figuring out what we can do specifically to give folks that hope that, if you do stop doing your drugs, then you will have this job. So that was, we know that's been a barrier. So I appreciate the work that you have been doing on working with that. You had something else to add?
If I may, Chairman, the other thing I'd like to point out for consideration in case members in this meeting do not know this, we always give people second chances when they test positive for drugs. If they submit proof that they've completed a recognized treatment program, our drug and alcohol program administrator responds in writing that they've received that proof. And we make a note of that in our database, and they are allowed to reapply and be considered for employment again. So it's the ability to give our applicants and employees who have lost jobs in the past a second chance.
Nice. Well, we definitely appreciate that. Looks like Alderwoman Davis has her hand back up.
Yes, very briefly, Mr. Chair. There's been a new policy passed on the state level for minimizing complications and or any kind of rules in employment for marijuana, and we might want to look at that because I think it could help us in helping our employees as well. And also, I know that we've had this conversation before, but I don't know if anybody has had it with our new interim director, but we were all looking at how we can compensate our employees through ARPA funds to give them a one-time benefit because they've all, as far as I'm concerned, whether you work in the office or you out there as first responders, they've jeopardized themselves and they've put in a lot during COVID. And most corporations and agencies across the country have compensated their employees. Some were not able to do more than like $250 an employee, but some have gone as high as $1,000 an employee. But could we please look at that opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the right way to go. Was that for the interim director?
I'm sorry, I thought that was the question was directed to you, Mr. Chair, but,
Well, we still got to take it to you.
oh,
I
yes,
guess
sir.
figure out how to do it.
My response would be that, yes, we will definitely look into it. And thank you for that, for that suggestion, Alderman Davis.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate that. That's very important. You know, our folks been out there working their butt off. Mr. Clark, is your hand up?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add what Alderwoman Davis had said. We also, the city passed legislation, I believe the week before Christmas is when the mayor signed it, that employees wouldn't be discriminated on for using medical marijuana now, or having a medical marijuana card. So that also has come out, and we've yet to see anything from personnel on a new policy on that. But I'm sure you're aware of that, but that hopefully that will help with employment as well.
Thank you for that. That's extremely important. Which is something else we need to look into. Anything we can do to get up with state laws, especially with employment, to retain more employees.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but you've been muted.
Yep, I see that now. I appreciate it. Thank you. No, I was saying I appreciate that. That's definitely something we definitely would like to dive into. Also, I guess anything on the state level that's helping, especially historically targeted individuals now gain employment. I think those restrictions should definitely be lifted here in the city, and let's figure out how to get in line with state laws, with state statute there. So not gonna hold folks up too much longer. I know what we're gonna do is hold the resolution. What I would like us to do is be able to come back here in the near future and make sure that this conversation was something that we got something out of for the individual who are looking to get some type of a response here out of Mr. Moten's office. What I'd like you all to do today, Mr. Hines and Dan Clark, I guess we can start a chain email separately because you all are separate unions, and just send out an email to me, myself, Mr. Moten, and I guess if you like, any committee members want to be added in, we can add them in. Therefore, we can start those conversations through email. Therefore, there can be a written record of the communication process, and if need be, we'll come back. Like Alderman Vaccaro said, that the intent is not to hash all this out publicly. A lot of times, it's to try to figure out behind closed doors, within our powers, how to work best with each other to ensure, each party is represented the correct way and everybody is doing their job to the best way that they can do, with, of course, in regards to the people that they represent. So, if we can, once again, start these conversations off behind through emails and make sure that the next time that we meet, we're either putting some type of a policy in place and have, something at the table where there's an actionable item, that brings us past the resolution. And once again, to the place that we all would like to be, where folks are finally getting what it is that they need. That'd be the goal for our next meeting. If things don't go like that, then of course we'll be back here with the resolution and trying to figure out how to once again get us back to a place where we can have an amicable conversation and get some solutions going in here on the table. So I appreciate you, Mr. Moten, Brian. It was, I'm sorry, who else we got in there?
John Ernestall and Aaron Swergen.
John Ernestall and Aaron
Swergen. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you all. I appreciate you, Mr. Jeff Hines and Dan Clark. Is there any more comments from committee members? Anybody else got anything they'd like to add or say today? Oh, all right, with that being said, I appreciate everybody being here today. We'll hold Resolution 189 until further notice. And this committee is hereby adjourned today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.